Come on up, dude. What is up? Oh, 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 oh. What is up, and welcome back to Uncle Rico's Storytime, number 107. George Floyd follow-up. I already got my first message right away from a friend, a white friend, that said, "You're really letting your racism show," with a winky face. So I think it's like, hey, I hate you, but I love you. I don't know. Or maybe, whatever. But yeah, it's the third time that someone over a political thing has called me a racist that knows me. And that upsets me, because if you know me, you know who my friends are. And pretty much every place that I've been at in my life, I always somehow gravitate towards minorities. I've always kind of felt like an outsider. We grew up poor. Not poor, but I got into a lot of trouble. I just felt out of place. I don't know why. I just always gravitated. Grew up in I lived in Houston, Texas, the suburbs of Houston, when I was a kid, 4th grade, I think, and I remember hanging around with a Hispanic kid was my best friend down there, and then another black kid, and my mom was fucking racist. And that's the other thing, is like, I grew up in that, and none of my family is racist. I mean, like, she'd say the slurs and stuff like that, but it wasn't ill meaning, you know. Like, even my grandpa was, you know, he'd always say the N-word, and I'd yell at him about, you know, saying it around me, and he's old, and I'm not gonna, you know, and so finally I just gave up. But then my cousin had an interracial baby, and I brought my buddy Twan over once before a Packer game, and they were gone. I found them downstairs talking guns, you know. But it's that old person mentality. When you throw it in their face, and when you throw their ignorance in their face, they adapt, you know. But my mom was like that growing up, and that didn't stop, you know, me from, you know, realizing, you know, the truth about equality and skin color and stuff like that. So, but even not in Texas, like, I went to a seminar for. I wanted to be a priest, believe it or not, when I was younger. And side note, there were molestation charges for a priest at the place 2 years afterwards. But that was my dad. Like, we had pictures of, like, me. There were like a handful of black kids there out of maybe 20 some, and my pal was, you know, one of the black kids there. I just palled around with him. I went to a seminar out in Stanford and palled around with, you know, a black kid out there and an Indian kid out there, and then this Southern guy who I thought was gay, but I still don't know. But I mean, like, if I'm racist, I grew up in a town that we only had one black kid in our town. I was buddies with him, and then when I was I think a junior, we got into this other kid from Chicago, and Keith, and he just fucking killed it in our basketball league. It was so much fun to watch him dominate. But Keith was a good buddy of mine too. I've just always kind of gravitated around. In the Navy, my buddy Sam's, and is still a good buddy of mine. So Sam's is kind of a good. Got some hot energy drink. Apparently, you're supposed to take doses of this. I'm going to bomb the whole thing, because this shit doesn't affect me. But maybe this would, who knows. I think my confidence to absorb drugs, my super strength to absorb drugs, may one day ultimately be my undoing. But who knows? Peace out, my man. Let's go a little kick. Let's go a little kick. Gave me an accent, didn't it? Oh, that fucking mustache. So, my buddy Sam's, when I was in the Navy, my last name, his last name, were right next to each other. So everything we do, I would be in back, and he would be in front, or he would be in back, I would be in front, standing at attention. You know, we're all lined up. It's constantly in the Navy. Line up, go to this place, line up, do this, line up, nut to butt. So it's intimate, right? So you're right there. And so what I started doing was I started singing to him country, like old country music, Charlie Daniels band and stuff. I think I started singing to him, what the hell is it? It's one of my favorites. It'll come to me. What is it? Stroke Grace is Born Great. Nope, that's not it. What is it? I don't know. I don't want to get off track, but it's a genius song. And when I heard it, because any country song, you immediately go, "Oh, rednecks," you know, whatever. But this song is making fun of rednecks, and it's fucking great. And I would do that behind him, or I would sing like a hot country song at the time, and then he would do it behind me. And like after a while we were like, dude, that's actually pretty good. That shit was in my head. And he's like, oh my god, I can't get that. What is that one? So we became really good friends, and I took him to the Navy has, any armed forces has, you know, a branch where they do goodwill, where they give away tickets and raffles and, you know, ideas, picnics, family stuff, take care of families, you know, MWR, Moral Welfare and Relief. And I take him to this football game. The Chargers were stationed out in San Diego, and then he wins, and whoever bought these tickets throughout the year got put into a raffle, and he won the raffle. Oh my gosh. Oh no. Hold on. Oh boy. I think my big boy just puked. And we're back. Yes, that was puke. Zeus, Commander Vomitus, has arrived. Left me 2 piles there. This is really bad stuff, really nasty stuff too. Peanut butter filled bones. So, I got a big pit bull who will just eat anything. This is a hockey puck that I gave him to chew on. But it was never an issue. He used to chew up stuff, and just spit it out. But now that I have Chico, he doesn't want Chico to have this stuff, so he's eating it. And I gotta now watch what I give him for bones. The bad thing is he gets scared when he does it, and I can't get him to go outside. He wants to go lay in the bed, so I'm hoping he doesn't throw up a 3rd pile, because then it turns into laundry day, which I might do anyways. Yeah, so where were we, my children? Yes, racism. So I got a Navy buddy, Sam's. I take him to a football game. His name gets drawn for the year-end right to buy 2 Super Bowl tickets. Face value was like $380, and this was in '96. Heyday of Super Bowl, and when scalping for the Super Bowl was big. And these are shit tickets, right? But still, Super Bowl tickets. And he wins the right to buy 2. And my buddy Sam's is just a great dude. He was one hell of a basketball player too, and is still. He's got 2 beautiful girls who are just killing it out in California. And not only was he possibly the best guy on baseball, one of the best guys on base. My buddy Jason Tomasacci played point at Penn State, and he was really good too. So, but not only was Sam's a great athlete, but he's just a really great dude. He's just always got a smile on his face, and his laugh is, it cheers you up to hear Sam's laugh. So, but he wins. So news of him winning these Super Bowl tickets travels fast, and I was a troubled youth. That's been well documented, and I ran a lot of side rackets when I was in the Navy, and I don't think this is one thing that I really can't disclose too much, but because I ran side rackets in the Navy. Nothing bad, nothing, drug or anything like that, but I made extra money. One of the ways I did that was I would borrow people. People were stupid. We're young, we're 18, 19, we're out on our own now, and we're getting money, and we're done with it. So what I would do is I would borrow people out money and then charge a big and make money off of that. Well, something happened where I didn't get paid that week, and I didn't have that much money in my account. That's backstory for what happens. So Sam's is the biggest celebrity on base. Okay, he's got people coming up to him constantly when we're eating, when we are marching across base. Somebody from another division is like, "Yo, Sam's, what's up, dude? Remember me?" Because he's got 2 tickets. So everybody is hitting him up like, "Hey, what you doing with that other ticket, man?" Like, everybody. And I was helping this dude. Like, I was one of the few white guys on the basketball court out in San Diego at our base. Jason was the other guy, and I just kind of was able to coexist out there. I would say I was the white Dennis Rodman. I would just hustle defense, and I was friends with Jason and Sam, so one of them would always pick me up last when we were picking teams, or when we were rolling, somebody would be like, "Yeah, you can run with us." But Sam's went from well-liked guy to just huge celebrity, and everybody was hitting him up. And after about a week, and he had told me that his brother, his lawyer brother, had offered to buy him for who was living in Oxnard, had offered to buy him for like $1,000 each or something like that. And we get to like a week out, and Sam's comes up to me, and he's like, "Hey man, so do you got..." Alright, girls are gonna think I'm fucking stupid for cheering up on this, but so Sam's comes up, knocks on my door. He's like, "Hey, what's up?" He goes, "Hey, do you got money for that Super Bowl ticket?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, you're coming to the game with me, obviously." And I was like, fuck, dude, really? And he's like, yeah, you took me to the game. You know, what kind of a fucking dick would I be if I didn't take you? You know, you're the reason I won them. And I was like, wow, man, I'm just blown away. Nobody would. I mean, you're looking at, you know. So I was like, fuck yeah, I'm in. You know, and went to go withdraw money to pay him and found out that I didn't get paid that. So I went back to him and was like, dude, I don't have the money. And he's like, I don't have enough money to pay for both of them. And so I'm talking to my other buddy Jason, my best friend, and this kind of changed things. This is when I mean, obviously somebody doing that for me, like what Sam's did, changed the way I felt about him, and then also, you know, changed the way that I felt about my buddy Jason. And I love Jason. He's one of those guys where you want to spend, if you're at a party, you want to spend the whole time with him. He's a fucking riot. I love him, but he's a bullshitter. And this what happened next kind of always stuck with me, because I'm just an honest dude. If I can't help you, I'm going to tell you why I helped you. There was this meth head, and he was like, hey man, you know, I go, I know what you're trying to do. I'm very blunt, and people call me an asshole for that. But my buddy says, yeah, you know, I know you're good for it. I'm gonna, you know, I'll take care of you. And then started to just, you know, kind of put me off and lie about stuff. Well, the day came when we had to buy the tickets, and so I go to my buddy's apartment, and he's not answering, and I'm pounding. I'm pounding so loud on the door that people are coming out from the other doors. We live on barracks, so it's basically just a huge apartment complex. One bedroom, and then one, you know, no bathroom. Bathrooms shared. So like one bedroom studio, like it's a college dorm basically. And there's two people that live in each little room. So I'm pounding on Tomasachi. Something happened where he didn't have a roommate. He did for a little bit. Seth, that's how I met Seth, I think. And then Seth moved out. Oh my god, that's a different story. So kicking the door, and so I know the guy who is doing barrack security, so I get him to open the door. I explain to him what's going on. I'm like, hey, I climbed over the thing. I see him through the window. I think he's hurt. And at this point, I know what he's doing. So I get the guy to, you know, let me in, and as soon as we open the door, he stirs. You know, he's in bed, and he's like, oh, it's like, I'm so hungover, and I'm like, dude, can you help me out or not? He's like, yeah, let's go. So we drive to the bank, all the way to the bank, and he comes out from the bank and he goes, yeah, they won't let me transfer it from, you know, this because it's the other bank. So I was like, so we got to go to another bank? And he goes, yeah, I think so. So we drive to this other bank, and he goes, yeah, they won't let me do it. He said something about a time zone, and I was like, fuck, man. So he's not gonna borrow me the money. So I go back to my buddy Sam's, and I'm like, I go, dude, I can't get the money. And so Sam's then borrows me the money to buy one Super Bowl ticket, and he doesn't even go. And my team is playing in the Super Bowl. I'm a Packers fan. And he does it, and he's like, I mean, your team's playing. What kind of a dick would I be? I don't really care about going to the Super Bowl that much. It's just a story for me. And I remember thinking, like, yeah, it's a story for me too, man. So, me and Sam's have stayed in contact, luckily, through the years. When I got out, I forgot how I found him, but, and Sam's is a bit of a bullshitter, too. But I'm glad we were able to stay in contact. But I've thought a lot about that, and one thing that I always tell people when we start talking about racism, and I'll get it out right now since we're only 12 minutes into it, that way once I start talking about it, people are like, no, you're wrong, you're a Nazi. Then, maybe I'll leave this lasting impression with you. But this experience, and Jason in no way did anything that was horrible to me. The only reason why I even remember this is because of how monumental the rest of the story was. Otherwise, it would have been a little blimp. I would have, not promising to borrow me money and then not doing it. Who cares? No big deal. Okay, but the test, the whole point of this question, and I guess if you're an ignorant racist, right, and you got that hate in your heart, when you look back on your life, it is not going to be the people that look different that have hurt you. After you're done, when you look back at the few people that have broken your heart or betrayed you, that have left a scar on your soul, they're going to look just like you. They're going to be the closest ones to you. They're going to have the same skin color. They're going to be from the same neighborhood. So why harbor all that hate when it comes down to it? The worst thing that other race is going to do to you is maybe give you some bad looks. Maybe call you a bad name. And that brings me to my next thing is the bad name, calling somebody a bad name. We'll get to that, but my old podcast about George Floyd, this is the thing here. That wasn't racist, okay? The only thing that I probably said borderline on racist is it was to infer that young black men, but I did say young white men also could possibly entertain the notion of fucking with cops and dying at the hands of police brutality, being a martyr amongst their community, being a brighter future or option than what they may have going for themselves, which is, I stand by that. So, but here's the thing, it's not racist at all. I could care less about George Floyd's skin color. The whole point of the podcast is that he's a shitbag, and he's on a list of 11 other people that are shitbags, and they're all white. And that whole list, albeit from my buddy, no, I'd throw him in too, because I know what he's like. Even Josh, the kid that reached out to me that is in jail now, my most recent addiction reclamation project that has failed. If I found out that they were passing, if I heard news and watched a video of them passing a counterfeit bill at a mom and pop store and then resisting arrest and finding out that they were all fucked up on drugs and had COVID, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. That's kind of figured how they'd go down. I wouldn't place a martyr tag on them. The whole reason why that upsets me is that my martyr is, Pat Tillman. That's the guy that I idolize, somebody that gave up an NFL career to fight for his country. This was a day meant for courageous people who made the ultimate sacrifice, not druggies, not druggie criminals. And that's my whole point. It's not black or white at all, but now that we're on the topic of racism, I figure, shit, why not? Let's talk about it. First, going back to the name calling thing, I've gone with a lot of my buddies. I had a buddy in college who were still buddies, who were still friends. And I asked him, what are some of the worst... I ask a lot of my black friends what's the worst experience of racism they have endured. And a lot of them, it's trivial. My buddy Twan has said recently, though, that he's walking... We're not going to get into recent, because that comes later. That's snapback. And that's what I hate is going on right now. But before 2020, we'll say pre-2020, I'd ask my friends, tell me about the story that, you've experienced the worst racism. And a friend of mine tells me the story about this road rage incident she gets into with this Asian guy who was tailgating her and screaming at her and honking her horn. And when he drove past, he had his window rolled down and he called her the N-word. And he was an Asian guy. And I'm like, okay, that's... I was thinking, in your whole life that was... And I'm sure there's worse, okay? I'm sure she's gotten into a fight with, and it's become passionate, and people have said the N-word to her. And this is a growing theme. I talked to my old college buddy, and like, tell me some stuff. And he's like, dude, every time I walk into a store, I get looks. I get judged. And I go, I 100% get that. But you understand that to some level, to some degree, that happens to all of us. It's strangers. You're strangers. Plus, you're a very, very large, bald-headed black man. You are intimidating. And that he didn't... It was kind of a compliment, kind of a joke, but that I could tell that when I've made jokes to him before, that he's laughed it off or whatever, that for some reason struck a chord. I think it was because I was downplaying, what he goes through. But I live out in this redneck, methy part of town, and I go to this bar all the time where there's a fight every night. Like, last call comes and the spouses start getting into it. There's fights throughout the night. I went there with a buddy of mine. I was like, dude, I don't want to go to Lucky Strikes. It's redneck and it's named after a bowling alley. So go figure. And there's no bowling alley around there anymore. So, but a buddy wants to go there, and I'm like, dude, I don't want to go there. Every time I go there, somebody I know gets in a fight. I was like, there was this hot chick that I was really interested in. She got in a fight, fucked up this girl. It was disgusting. I don't want to... He's like, no, it'd be fun. Everybody knows me there. And I go, yeah, everybody knows me too, but I don't want to go there, And so we go there, and I'm sitting there. I'm not kidding you. I'm sitting there 5 minutes, and he comes back up, and he's like, dude, so-and-so and so-and-so are fighting. And I go, I don't care. And he goes, no, they're fighting each other. And I go, I don't care. My two buddies of mine. So one guy beat the shit out of this other dude. Just stupid. But, so fast forward, same guy ends up bartending there during the day. And I am on a bike ride, and when I ask him something, so I chain my bike up, and I go in there, and I have my shades up on my head, so I'm looking pretty douchey. And I walk in, and this old fucker at the bar goes, nope. And I kind of walk in, and he goes, And I'm looking at the bartender. She starts walking away from what she's doing, and I go, no, it's okay. And she kind of gives me attitude, and I start to leave, and the guy goes, "You're kind of welcome around here." And I stopped. I walked out and then I went back in because he was with a woman and I wanted to embarrass him. But I walked back into the door and I said something like, "Hey, if you're talking to me, I am right outside and I will fuck you up." And I remember thinking, like, it's funny because I go there at night in my cowboy boots and my jeans and nobody says a thing. You know, I go in a t-shirt and sports clothes and my black shades on top of my head. It's, you know, and it's, I understand that I don't get that, you know, all the time like my buddy Early does. I 100% get that. But one thing that I want him to understand and other people to understand is we all get that. We all, my brother-in-law was the best man on, who was big man on campus. He set all these records in football and basketball at high school, and I remember talking to him after he got married to my sister, and I was like, "Dude, how great was high school?" And he's like, "I fucking hated it, all the pressure and people watching me and everything." And you know, it's human nature. We question ourselves. This is, we get inside of ourselves, and not only that, we're humans, we're pack animals. We'll get to that, but I gotta talk about him. Poor Ross. So I've talked to Crystal, I've talked to Early, and one thing that I told them about, like, the N word, there was actually another friend of mine would tell me stories when, and this was maybe 15 years ago. She would tell me that she uh, would walk from school, and she was in like grade school, and she said two older boys, maybe one that was like 8th or ninth grade, and then like a junior or senior, would throw rocks at her. Which, man, I wish they would have fucking got their comeuppance. I hope they did. I'm sure they did. But she said they would harass him all the time, and she'd have to find different ways home, which is heartbreaking, you know. But when I ask all these people, that was really the only story that stayed with me back then. Now it's different because of Snapback, but and Snapback is the whole point of this racism podcast, I guess. Is, I mean, it's a two-way street. Before 2020, we were in a really good place, and once the media and both political sides have tried to divide us, and social media is not good either because that's so divisive, but all this is a snapback. It's fatigue on both sides. Social media, the loudest voices are the smallest percentage. The 5-10% are trolls, are the ones that are out there saying, you know, out chimping around, and on the other side, you know, calling us Mayo skin and White Walkers. White Walkers, I think, is funny. But you know, all the other racist comments, and those are just two kind of lighthearted, funny. Not lighthearted, not funny. Racism is not funny, obviously, but I'm just kind of casually saying, you know, the most humorous insults that I've seen on there. Obviously, if anybody's gone on social media, you've seen what it is. You can't watch a video without it getting negative. And then obviously if the skin color is different in the video, then it's definitely going to revolve around race. But the the problem there is when it goes unchecked, when there's just, I mean, some of the shit out there is just. So I worked at this really nice steakhouse in Madison, and one of my favorite employees was this younger kid, black kid, just really smart. Um, I just was really impressed that he was doing multiple different, like he rode in on a skateboard. I remember going to work. He rode in on a skateboard to work. He was doing all this other stuff, and I'm like, you're just fucking good no, 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 no. I was like, if I gave you something that you've never done before, you'd probably get pretty good at it pretty quick, wouldn't you? And he's like, yeah, probably, but just smart and just and it had an amazing smile. One of my favorite things was making him joking around and making him smile because he just had this infectious smile. Um, the hell was I had so I had his buddy was this white kid, and I called him what was Black Thunder and White Lightning or something like that. I mean, I guess looking back on it, I guess that could be a discrimination suit, but I mean, he knew it wasn't derogatory. I hope it wasn't derogatory. I think I asked him at one point, if it. And he's like, no, I love it. But I saw him. He went to college, and I got into a fight with him online. And I'm not kidding you. He said something about how racism was invented by American businessmen, and I'm like, dude. I go, back that up. And it was like a comment where we started messaging each other. And I go, you realize racism has existed since humans have existed. Like, we are pack animals, dude. We do not like anything that's different. The first blonde caveman got fucking burned, I'll bet. Like, your statement is just, and he's like, no, like, we talked about this in my class. And I was so appalled that I started researching it, and they're really preaching that racism started in America by businessmen to keep black people down. And I got into it with him, and I was like, dude, okay, so this could be this most racist thing I ever say, but I got into it with him, and I go, dude, it's not, it wasn't American businessmen inventing this. It wasn't people putting liquor and gun stores on corners of bad neighborhoods. It was through the 80s and 90s, like, it was cool to have bastard kids. I'd hear guys talking, oh yeah, I got 8 of them out there running around. Oh yeah, I got 2 out there running around. But they're not fathers. This was an epidemic. This set back a culture big time. I'm a big brother. My little's mom has 5 kids, 6 kids, 4 or 5 different dads. And they have since moved from Arizona to Ohio, and they were all kicking ass. She got away from her shitbag boyfriend who just got out of prison. But it's when I got into this argument with him, it got so heated, and like, his posts were so angry, and it really made me fucking pissed that college is out there pumping up this propaganda. Now, this was way, this was years and years and years ago, before all of this shit has happened, and I realized media, and I realized how everything is. But there's schools out there currently teaching that. The other thing that he said to me, and has since been echoed, is that black people can't be racist. He said you need there has to be a issuance of power in order for there to be a racist event to have occurred. And because he's black, he will not ever hold that power. And I go, dude, if you walk by a homeless person and spit at him and say, fuck you, white devil, that's racist. Furthermore, if you say white people can't jump, can't dunk, can't dance, white people suck at this, white people always tell on each other, those are all racist statements. You have been racist. Now, on the other side of that, a lot of times, if there's a name-calling incident, I stand by the fact that it's just passionate. You want to hurt the person. It's the same thing as the C word, the N word. When you get into an argument, you want to say the one thing that is going to hurt that person the most. When I got into a fight with my ex, Yana, we got into the point where we were fighting all the time, and I'm very analytical, so I was tracking how many days we fight. And when I finally broke up with her, I was like, hon, you have a rage problem, you've done this, this, and that. She goes, I know. She grew up on the streets. Her mom was an addict, her dad was in prison. She has since passed. I've met her, unfortunately. She has passed. Her dad just went back into prison. So they didn't change their ways, unfortunately. She was in the adoption system and said she experienced some really brutal shit. So I get her anger. I told her that I totally 100% understand her anger. She needs counseling for it, though. She's got to see somebody. And ultimately, that's why I broke up with her, is I was like, I have rage problems myself. And it took me years to corral this, and I can't go through that with you, you know. So, but when we were fighting, when we got into it, she kept pushing me, and she wanted me to she kept saying, say it. And the minute that she said say it, I thought of the biggest insult that I could. I'm nasty. If you poke me, I'm going to drop the nuke bomb on you. So when she said say it, I thought of the one thing that would hurt her the most. And it was about personal hygiene. Her personal hygiene of the female anatomy. And she kept saying, say it. And I finally said it. Before that, when we got really, really heated, she insulted me about, I think it's just her standard insult. Because she's like, that's all right. I don't need to share that part of it. But she goes, say it, motherfucker. You know you want to. And I'm like, yo, pussy smells. And she's like, ha ha ha. She starts laughing. And I was like, you think I'm kidding? It fucking does. Why do you think? And she's like, that ain't what you want to say, bitch. Say it. Say the word. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And she's like, you know you want to call me a N-word. And I'm like, and that's when I knew to shut it down. I was like, okay, this is what's going on in the fight. We're saying the thing that we can say the most. She totally misread this. I delivered the thing that I thought was going to hurt the most, and she was waiting for the thing that she wanted. So we shut that down. But, and here's the other thing with that situation with Yana is this double-headed blade of not ever being racist. Like the first couple of times that she would have conversations with her sister, I was like, so we're not ever having her over to the house. And she's like, why'd you say that? And I was like, because she's fucking racist as hell. And she's like, no, she ain't. She loves everybody like the equal, blah, blah, blah. And I go, no, she's not. She said a bunch of things that was super racist. And she's like, no, she didn't. And I go, yeah, she did. My boss is white, so I don't trust him anyways. Blah, blah, blah. White devil. Blah, blah, blah. Quit listening to that white music. It's shit. It'll change you. I go, those are all race. That's all race. She's like, nah, that's all just what people say. I go, yeah, but that's fucking racist. I was over at my two female friends, my littles, had two ladies that aren't even related to him. God bless both of them for helping raise him. Turns out they're not even related. But I'm still in contact with them. They're still friends of mine. And I went over there during an award ceremony, and this stuck out. Zoe Saldana wins an award, and the mom was like, oh shit. And the daughter was like, no, it's okay, she's black. And because Zoe Saldana looks black, she's gorgeous, but the mom was like, no, I read she's Dominican. And she's like, no, she's Dominican, blah, 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 and black. And she's like, oh, okay, that's okay. But I was like, holy shit, this is like rampant racism. You're watching an awards show and only rooting for the black people to win, outwardly like rooting for the black people to win. It reminded me, so in the heyday of like all this 2020 stuff, I am part of this show called, the fuck was it, Nocturnals? It never got made. But I go to casting, and it's this studio in town, black owned, downtown Phoenix. And I go to the casting for this character, Harrison. He's a vampire. And the script, so I go in and I look at the list of names for this audition, for this character. I sign up my name, Nick for Harrison, under the Harrison sheet. And all of them were like Tyrone, Tyrese, Alvin, like typically Latron, like whatever, I don't know. All black names. I'm like, oh, fuck. I think I'm the token white guy. But I went in and I had real long hair. I was clean shaven at the time. I was real tan from cleaning pools. And I went into this audition, and what I did for Harrison was I started off I wanted to show them my range. And so I treated the beginning of this audition as very shticky and like super nice. I thought of like how Christians are when they're like, oh, that's tremendous, great. So I kind of was like very, very nice. And then I switched it by the end of the audition. I was like, showing rage. And so when they called me back, the guy was like, dude, we just love what you did with your audition, how you played him, to Wade, and we really want you to do that. We want you to show the extremes. We want you to be, because I was like used car salesman-y, and then like fucking notorious, like, whoa. So he's like, we want that. And so I found out then after I got the script that I was the only white person. It was very alt. There were a lot of gay, bi characters. It was kind of wizards, witches, vampires. I was ultimately the evil white guy that was behind the scenes pulling the strings. I had the first scene of the show and the end scene of the show. The end scene was one of the only scenes that we shot because we ran into the director had medical issues, money, COVID, like all sorts of stuff. So we were on hiatus for like 5 or 6 years. Shot a couple scenes and then never got to finish the project. But we shot the final scene, which is me. It's a really cool scene. The light reflects off my eyes. It was really cool. But the end scene is me saying, I don't know who it was, but when I find them, I'm going to make their death very, very slow. And just kind of looking off into the distance. It was a really cool scene. So the whole thing is set up for the next season to be me very much in it, going after this girl that started this whole kind of civil war amongst supernatural villains. It was very gory, the stuff that he shot. So, but we get into it about on Facebook. There was a point during all this political stuff that they were going after Confederate monuments. And he posts something. We're out in Arizona. He posts something about a monument down in Tennessee or something. And he's like, this is why I'll never trust white people. I will never cast a white person as a lead in my shows. And that was kind of the extent of it. You can't trust. I don't think he said anything about trust, but that's basically what he said, the gist of. And this was a guy that we loved, I thought we genuinely enjoyed working with each other. So I thought about it for a day or two, and then I sent him a message, and I was like, dude, I mean, your post basically says that is a slap in the face. Like, I know I forced my way into this show, but I still thought there was a level of mutual respect. I'm withdrawing from the project, man. And we made up later. We hashed it out later. But once we hashed it out, and I'm talking to him, I go, dude, we just had a black president. There are loans and channels out there, small business loans only for black people. There are laws against discrimination to protect against any kind of shit like that happening. You are a young, gay, black man who is probably living life pretty unprovoked right now, which is fucking awesome. So instead of, getting worked up over a TV news story that you saw, instead of looking at your life and realizing how good you have it, I mean, that insult of you could always be back in Africa, it's true. I don't want to inflame situations here, but when you think about the small scope of slavery in America, and I'm not downplaying it all, I go, dude, if you think of your ancestors, if somebody was like, hey, if you had to endure a life of persecution to ensure that your grandchildren and ancestors could live in a awesome first world country like this and have freedom like this, I think most of them would make that sacrifice. And I don't want to make that that's kind of a morbid thought, but I'm just saying, if you cut and dry it and take the slap, but take that atrocities that you endured and realize how good you have it right now. Maybe that would change your mental. But because of this snapback, because of this hate that you get on both sides now, this empowerment, this freedom of speech, so both sides can say what they want and hurl insults unfettered, it affects normal people. I've never been. So when I got out of the Navy, I moved to Omaha, and I'm working at this place, and I'm bartending, I'm chatting with these two guys. I don't know. I've always just gravitated and been able to talk to people. Black dudes were calling me fam for the longest time. I didn't know what the fuck. I had to call another one of my buddies. I'm like, dude, I'm outside this concert. It keeps, like I said, he had to explain to me what's going on. But I'm just comfortable talking with them. I owned a barbecue restaurant, and we'll get to that, my racism, after this story. So we're in Omaha. And I will make another confession of my racism, my actual racism. So I'm in Omaha bartending, and I start talking with these two dudes, and they're talking about how hard it is to get a ride to where they're going, and I'm like, I'm actually off pretty soon. I'll give you a ride. And I was driving this really sweet Mustang. It's flashy. And so I drive them up to North Omaha. And this is when I first moved into town. I did not know what North Omaha was about. So I'm driving them up there, talking, chatting, not really noticing where I'm going. I've been in sticky situations, so it's not like, my alarm bells have gone off. But when I dropped them off then, at the place they were going, a bunch of guys got off the stoop and came out. A couple of dudes showed me a gun. The one guy was like, all right, man, you better get the fuck out of here right now. And I was like, what the hell? He's like, no, it's all cool, but just you're a good looking white dude driving a fucking not pimped out, but like a nice fucking ride. He's like, you better get, man. Much love, fucking vamoose. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, it was nice. He's like, no, get the fuck out. And I was like, started, hit a couple of stop signs, and guys were coming out with, I saw another gun, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start running these stop signs now. But my racism is probably against white people. I think there's stereotypes and there's racism. Racism is saying derogatory things, doing things against another race because you think that race is inferior. I do have a little bit of that. I think, and it's against white people. I think white people, by the majority, I would say more white people are a blight on the system. No, I can't say that. As employees, I would say minorities are much harder workers. And I will stand by that. When I owned my barbecue restaurant, I had this one kid that I really liked. He was just a really great guy. I'm in a bathroom with my... God, Jesus Christ, what was my problem? Oh, I can't really say that. So this guy, he was just a great kid, and he goes, I'm doing my thing one day, and he goes, hey, how does it feel? And I go, what? And he goes, how does it feel, motherfucker? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, how does it feel to be a minority? And I go, what? And then I start looking around, and I'm like, oh shit, all of my employees are black or Hispanic. I was like, oh, am I racist? And he goes, nope, but you're outnumbered now. And so I said, I forget what I was like. It's not my fault. I was innocent, or something. I made some joke about making an excuse, standard excuse or something. But so yeah, I am racist in that aspect. But I remember I applied for college financial aid and was like slapped in the face. I was like, damn, there's nothing out here for just a majority. I had to try to pretend like I was in the Polish American Club to try to get some financial aid from Polish American financial aid. So, but yeah, I mean, there's the bad thing is right now with I get it. If you're in if if you are a black citizen of this country, it is so easy to use it as a crutch and start looking at every situation with a skin color lens. But if you back it out, there were one thing that I was floored at when I did this I started kind of looking at this George Floyd thing, is I went down a rabbit hole with slave trade. Is there were two major slave trades, the transatlantic and the trans-Saharan. This trans-Saharan has been around forever. Horrific things, male castration without painkillers. I mean, same stuff. I think it's the same stuff. Once you objectify a person and say that race is an object, you are going to get evil, psychotic, sinister fuckers that then enact their monstrous behavior, lynchings. But the trans-Saharan was, I mean, it was pretty much standard. Men got castrated, they died from the castration, they were marched through deserts, everyone pretty much died. Like, the percentage of slaves that actually made it through this voyage was nothing. The transatlantic, now there was famine and everything on the ships, but most of them went to the different countries. When you look at how many of the slaves went to America, it was like 4% of the transatlantic. Okay, so, you know, now you bring into the fact that there's another whole slave trade line, which was bigger, longer, more people. Say America is 1% of the slave population. But it is the 1% that has not acclimated to society. And now, with everything being politicized, it's the worst it's ever been. I think we were at this amazing melting pot thing, and then 2020 came, and Trump is the devil, he's a horrible Nazi, all MAGA are... If you believe that every single MAGA supporter is a racist, then you're saying half of the country are racist Nazis. Like, that just doesn't make sense. And, oh my God, I don't want to live in this country if that's the case. And you know it's not. So stop fucking saying it, okay? But when all of this civil unrest and all of the shit about Trump, I mean, Trump is well documented on how philanthropic he is about black people, and the multiple times his generosity towards black people. He put Jennifer Hudson up in his hotel, like, as a secret, and still doesn't talk about it. And then she turned her back on him, which is fucking sad, but she has to. She's in the entertainment industry. But either way, this is snapback. Now that both of these racists on both sides are being amplified, I've never ever felt uncomfortable around black people. I've never thought about race. I've never really thought about what they think about me, I guess, before this whole thing. Once the BLM riots, started, you know, people would shout at you. Black people would shout at you at gas stations and stuff. Black lives matter, man. Black lives matter. I just remember, like, at one point, walking along and making a cognizant thought that my mentality has changed towards black people. There was a point where when I would pass them on the sidewalk, I would see in their eyes contempt. Or maybe I was imagining it, I don't know, but it made me realize how guarded I had become around them. I hated I hated talking about my friends because it always revolved around race. It always came down to race. I hated having to bite my tongue around friends when they were talking about, you know, racism and everything like that. When I saw them outwardly being racist, you know, saying stuff that was like, dude, you know, I mean, you can't cheer on only black candidates during the awards show and then, you know, say the stuff that you're saying about accuse white people of the thing. So, but either way, this is the bad thing that is happening at this point, and it's not going to stop. And the whole point of my George Floyd thing is that, you know, we're taking this guy who's a criminal, who's a shitbag, and we're forgiving him for things and putting him up on this pedestal because he's black. That's not the right thing to be doing, you know. And without getting into all the ICE stuff, it's getting to the point where we're picking fights with these police officers and thinking that that is a good thing. The worst, well, the Rodney King video, but the second worst racism involved, the second worst, was Rodney King cops? Yes. The second worst video I've ever seen of police brutality is a drunk white lady, I think it was in Florida, maybe it was Illinois, Skokie? Maybe I can pull up pictures when I post this. Who am I kidding? I'm not going to. But if you're intrigued, Google drunk female slammed into jail. Into bunk. That'd probably do it. But there's this footage of this lady coming in and out of her cell. Why wasn't the cell closed if he wanted her in there? If she was annoying, I don't know. But you can tell she's pissing him off. You can see him, you know, get back. Finally he goes up, grabs her head, and hurls her head first into this concrete or metal bunk and fucks her face up. I mean, orbital bone fracture, cheekbone fracture, chin. Like, they took pictures of it right away and her face was swollen up. I saw a picture of her at worst, but the picture they're circulating in the media isn't the worst one. But I mean, these are things, and this happened, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, but it doesn't get publicized because of the race factor. There have been studies. There was like this Harvard professor, this black guy, who was like, fuck, I did a huge extensive study on police brutality, but it kind of looks like it's the other way around. It's pretty conclusive that percentage-wise, there's more abuse towards white people than there was against minorities, I guess. He was like, fuck, I really wanted to believe. Like, he did a couple of things where he was like, oh, conclusive, and then finally after a while he was like, same thing with the Atkins diet guy. He was like, we've done a bunch of tests and now it doesn't work. But we did, or no, that wasn't Atkins. That's the what is the gluten thing. Um, I'm not saying anything about celiac disease, God forbid, and we do have allergies. I'm just saying that they did a study and found out that it was inconclusive, a lot of it. But yeah, I really don't know where the hell I was going on now, but I think I just talked about an hour on race. Maybe I said some shit that I shouldn't have, but it's my truth. No, it's just, we're so polarized right now that, man, I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm hoping that once, our president is gone and we go back to normal with the whole lobbyists controlling the president and the family, stealing aid and all the theft and corruption comes back. Once we go back to normal, then when the media tries to stir it up again, no, it will go off like a fucking flashbang. Just saying a hopeful thing like that. Like, I was gonna say, like, hopefully we got it out of our system. No. This is what I talked about at the beginning of the George Floyd podcast. Is I knew this was going to happen. They had laid the network of the BLM organization and lit the fuse with the George Floyd thing, where I was like, the whole country is going to go up. And we came fucking close. A lot of murders, a lot of businesses were destroyed, a lot of personal homes and businesses were set on fire and looted, and it's going to happen again. Because our two main sources of entertainment, TV and social media, both of them are driven to be divisive and cause hate amongst our races, which is sad as fuck. And talking, and it may seem, I definitely was not belittling, but minimizing some of the racial discrimination some of my friends have seen pre-2020. Now it's worse. Now I talk to my buddy, he's like, dude, I pick up my girls from school and people have their windows down and yell at me when I'm walking on the sidewalk. And I hate where our country has become now, because we were so good before. But it just goes to show you how powerful our media is. So, if you somehow made it this far, think of your life situation with a grain of salt. It's not as bad as we think it is. There's a lot of love out there, and you watch all these movies. I'm on my super box scrolling some movies. I must have got stuck down on something, but it was, racial. It just sucks. It's on us to kind of see through that and realize how far we've come. And it's a shame to slip back into it, but that's where I see the writing is on the wall, unfortunately. But that is my rant. I'm sure lots of you disagree with me and found a lot of racist comments in there, but some of it probably isn't. Maybe you should fucking look at yourself. Ignorant hate bag. Just kidding. Alright. If you dare to share, go for it.